everyone. I'm Kenny Rice. Welcome to the Horse Racing Show. Great show we have today. Mark Casse, the Hall of Fame trainer who has Enforceable in the Kentucky Derby, will be joining us in just a few moments. And later on, we'll talk to Vaccaro of NBC Sports. He covers not only horse racing and the Olympics, but also car racing. So he'll talk about NASCAR that's allowing a few fans in, and the Indy 500 recently run with no fans, much as the Kentucky Derby is going to be. I think most of you people know that we taped this show during the week, and when we last spoke to you, we were talking about it was great at least some fans would be coming to the Kentucky Derby. Well, since then, a lot has changed. The change is there will be no fans at the Derby, much like at the Belmont. To try to speculate what's going to happen with the Preakness and Breeders' Cup, we're miles and miles away from that. Just look how quickly things changed in Louisville. In a matter of 24 hours, it went from about maybe 23,000 fans to absolutely zero fans. There will be trainers there. It looks like some owners there, and then obviously the jockeys, horses, and a few of us at NBC, and that will be it. Welcome in on lead guitar, Ben Chaffins. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Kenny.
And our ace researcher, Mr. Thomas Kenny. Thomas, how are you?
I'm doing good, fellas.
Let me ask you guys, what's it like to be watching sporting events, as you will coming up next week, the Kentucky Derby, knowing there's no fans there? Thomas, I'll ask you. I imagine you caught some of that Indy 500 that was fanless as far as fans in the stand. Does it really make that much of a difference to you as a viewer watching it?
I think it really does. Maybe not as much in auto racing as opposed to like wrestling, for example. That was the first sport I watched where I really noticed that, the lack of fans, like you can hear basically everything that happens in the ring so much clearer. It's just a completely different experience.
How about you, Ben?
Yeah, it is a different experience because you lose that energy. I mean, yeah, you're watching it on TV at your home, but still not being able to see like the people there being excited, cheering, and even listening to when they were, that ambient audio from the fans, it just kind of changes it.
Yeah. Thomas, do you like that when you're watching baseball? I know another one of your favorite sports, and you hear the crowd noise. You know they're not there, but you hear the noise.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it almost feels unceremonious without, the crowd either cheering or booing and this, that, and the other. It's just, you can still appreciate the game for what it is, but it's a completely different experience. I mean, it's night and day.
I'll go back to what Todd Pletcher told me at the Belmont as we were up there in the empty paddock waiting for horses to come over in one of the earlier races. And he said at that time he wouldn't even mind hearing some people booing him, as is the custom up in New York. Cheers, boos, anything that lets you know there was human contact, And I think that's a big part of sports, like you guys were talking about. You go to an event, you want to be a part of the event. You want to hear other people cheering and rooting for or against, don't you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we are social creatures after all.
Yeah, and what's going to be interesting this year to me, the Derby, is the walkover, because that's one of my favorite things in sports, and I've been fortunate, 17, 18 of these things. When you start walking over and you start hearing that crowd build, they get a look at the horses for the first time going over to the grandstand. There's nothing else like it. And, that can be said for a lot of sports. When you see the team come onto the field for the first time and it's building for the big game, and that's much the case. Anyway, there are great stories at this year's Kentucky Derby. One of them is Mark Casse, who last year, of course, won a Preakness and won a Belmont. Now he's trying for his first Kentucky Derby win, and he's going with Enforceable, an outside shot. But how outside are all the shots outside of the obvious Tiz Now and maybe Art Collector? We'll talk to Mark, and then later on, Vaccaro right here on the Horse Racing Show. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. Delighted to have this man with us. He's been our guest more than any other guest. He is the Hall of Fame trainer, Mark Casse, who's getting ready for the Kentucky Derby with Enforceable. Hello, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Kenny.
Oh, great to have you back on. We were talking just before we came on to tape all this. You're in Ocala, Florida at the moment. We'll be driving up to Louisville for the Derby.
Yeah, it's going to be the first time as I drove to Kentucky in a long time, but I just my wife and I are going to go up, and we feel more comfortable doing it that way.
With all the changes, as we obviously know, that's taken place this year, at least there will be the Derby. There won't be any fans there. You're used to being at the track. I am as well. Without fans, it will be different in that regard for people watching. But what won't be different is you come into a horse race where you have a strong favorite probably in Tis the Law, but then you're going to have some horses like Enforceable that have some shots out there, and that's the purpose of having a horse race, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You and I have watched a lot of Kentucky Derbies. I know personally, I've had a couple horses eliminated right from the start. You can have the best horse and not win. You need some luck. It doesn't matter how good your horse is. And you're right. Tizzalaw he is the horse to beat, and he's going to be extremely tough, especially if he gets a good trip. So, but I feel good. Our horse is training as well as he's ever trained. We know he's going to enjoy the 1.25 miles, and there does seem to be a fair amount of speed. Looks like there's a fair amount of speed in the race. So if you're not in it, you can't win it. So we're going to be in it.
And you got the horse that would set up for a big closing run. He likes off the pace. You mentioned the speed in there. Enough speed, perhaps, that'll set up for a close for Enforceable. I guess that's the best scenario, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. He is a horse, and this has been one of the reasons why he hasn't been more effective in a lot of his races. He has no control over what happens, so he just has to sit back and hope that the speed falters and he can come running.
One of the things about Enforceable, when I think we last had you on, we were talking about him down in Louisiana, getting ready for what would have been had there been the first Saturday in May like usual. So the fact that he's still, here he is still on the Derby Trail from, back in the early spring till now, says a lot for you and a lot for Enforceable.
Well, the truth is, Kenny, I think if the Derby had ran when first Saturday in May, we wouldn't have been in it. This has been a blessing for us. We had run Enforceable, ran pretty hard, and I think by the last Louisiana Derby, he was a little knocked out. So we brought him home. We weighed him the day he came in, and I think the day he left to go to run in the Bluegrass, he weighed almost 100 pounds more. So that time off really helped him. And like I said to you, he's an extremely happy horse right now and training well. I said this to Mr. Oxley a couple of days ago. I told him, I said, look, where we fall in as far as his ability, I'm not certain. The only thing I can tell you is we have got to this point, and we're as happy as we could ask to be. So that's all you can do. You go over there, you need some luck. I think we're due some Derby luck. We've had some unfortunate Derbies. The biggest one would have been Classic Empire, getting kind of wiped out after 100 yards. But so maybe this is our time to have a little luck go our way. And if it happens, if it does, he's going to come running. He's going to run well. Like I said, I just don't, there's a lot more accomplished horses in there. So I don't know.
Well, you did mention, maybe if there's a blessing to be taken out of this year, a horse like Enforceable. And, there are some others, when you start thinking of all those that were still in the running, when you start thinking of all those that are still in the running now,
right,
and going back and looking at all those with injuries or whatnot that fell by the wayside, I mean, even the names out there, other than Tis the Law, Enforceable, I think Authentic, Honor AP, there's very few names that were mentioned back in the spring that will be running in just a few days in Louisville.
No, I agree. I mean, Tis the Law. I mean, what a I mean, what a nice horse he is. He's been going long and hard and strong continually, and great job by Barkley. He's one of those guys. If you don't win, you want him to win. He's just, he's been great for our game. He's a tremendous horse trainer, and but he's done a wonderful job. And you're right. When we started, it was interesting. We were when we were getting ready for the Derby in May, it was questionable whether we were going to have enough points, and I forget where we sat in the numbers. And then even 2 months ago when we ran and we were fourth in the Bluegrass, I think we were 12th or 13th on the list, and I thought, well, and there were still a lot of races to be run. And I told Mr. Oxley, I said, I think we'll get in, but, we could be close to being on the bubble, depending on how some of these races play out. And I think I looked yesterday, and I think we're 6. So we haven't even ran, but we've been moving up. We're now 6. So, we've been moving up and haven't ran.
No, we're talking with a Hall of Fame trainer, Mark Casse, who has Enforceable in the Derby. And, another thing, Mark, honestly, I thought when the Derby was moved back to the first Saturday in September, I don't think there's going to have 23-year-olds that could even make it to the gate. But now it looks like there's a great possibility it'll be a full field or very close to 20.
Yeah, it's and they're coming from all different directions with many different ideas. I know Roger Atfield has I can't think of the Colts name right now, but he's 2 for 2, and we've run against him twice now. And I know they're bringing him in for Mr. Fipke. So it's interesting.
It certainly is. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more with Mark Casse right here on the Horse Racing Show. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for tuning in. Delighted to have a good friend of ours, Mark Casse, who trains Enforceable, the Hall of Fame trainer. And by the way, you're going to be you're going to have like 2 inductions into the Hall of Fame, aren't you, Mark? I mean, they had one without fans there this year, and then they're going to bring you guys back next year when they have the 2021 class in. They'll recognize you guys again.
They didn't really. They did do a little something this year, but you're right. I thought about that. I was like, I got a lot of congrats this year, and probably you'll get some more next year when they reintroduce it. So I think Todd's eligible next year. So got a feeling it'll be going in with him.
I was hosting a charity event, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago to raise money for disabled jockeys. And Todd was there, as a lot of you guys are, to help out in these situations. And I was getting ready to introduce him, and I guess he had noticed my notes where I'm going to introduce him as the Hall of Fame trainer.
Yeah.
And then he reminded me that he wasn't in yet, only because he hadn't trained long enough to be eligible. That's how his career's been.
Yeah, you have to be in 25 years. Yeah. You have to train for 25 years.
Yeah, I kind of stop and think about that sometimes.
Yeah.
How quickly it all goes. Let me ask you about you've got a young jockey, Adam Busquitsa. Am I pronouncing it right?
Well, you're doing better than I do, because I just call him Biscuit. That's what they call I was just having this conversation with Gary Barber, and we were talking about Adam. I said, I need to learn how to pronounce his last name, and he was pronouncing it for me. And I said, I'm just sticking with Biscuit.
Well, Busquitsa is 28 years old, or Biscuit, as you call him. He's making his Derby debut. He's from New England. He's from Newmarket, England. What about this young jockey in this situation?
Well, I've always thought a lot of Adam, been able to watch him ride now for a few years. He's read some winners for us. You know what? He's an extremely hard worker. He's a smart rider, and he's helped us out all summer long and did things, and he worked enforceable a couple times and worked him and worked him well. And Adam knows his way around Churchill Downs, and the biggest thing we were looking for was an eager rider, which this is his first try, and he's going to give us everything he has, which most riders are going to do in the Kentucky Derby. But we were also looking for an extremely strong finisher, and Adam fits that bill, and that's why he's there. And you know what? I think, with conversations with Mr. Oxley and when we were going over things, we just thought, you know what? It's nice to give a young, hardworking rider a shot. And when I called and told him, I said, Adam, let's win our first Kentucky Derby together. And he said, good. Now it would be Mr. Oxley's second, but that's okay.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's Monarchos. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I looked it up. For those that might be scouring now the TPs or something, past performance, Roger Attfield's horse is Cheryl's Spite.
Yeah.
And I'm still looking at, there's several of these, like you say, that have kind of popped in that you kind of, at least I'd almost forgotten about. You go, yeah, I guess that's right. They're still there. They're coming back in and all that. Since finishing fourth in the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, how's the training been for Enforceable? Anything you've noticed that continues to make you feel even more confident coming into the Derby?
Well, we've trained him hard. We left him at Churchill, so he's got a little bit of a home field advantage. He's been training there all along. We took him there right after the Bluegrass, and has just trained, done everything we've asked him to do. He's training well. We worked him out of the gate, just to kind of keep him on his toes, and then came back with a really good 3/4 work. I think it was Sunday, and we'll just do a little something with him now. But all systems are go. He's locked and loaded, and like I said, now we just need some luck.
Going into this Derby, you've been there before. Is there anything that you feel like you've learned over the years bringing horses, getting them ready? Because as you said, it's not always about having that horse at the moment, as we've seen with so many Derby winners, with very few exceptions in the last 20 years. They had their moment, and maybe you just didn't hear much of them again after that first Saturday in May.
Oh, you definitely, I've been doing this 40 years, so there are definitely tricks to the trade that you learn and you do things. And I do feel like with some back history of being in the Derby, you do things a little different. But I just know you have to be on the top of your game, not just physically, but mentally with your horse. And we feel like we're there right now.
Mark Casse grew up like just across the street from Churchill Downs. I mean, this is it's always like it's always a homecoming, isn't it? I mean, do you ever get very sentimental when you come to the Derby because of all that?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I can remember, we had a place. I mean, I could get the scratches and the changes, just walked out to my back yard.
I know. That's why when I say that, people might say, well, he grew up in Louisville. Well, no, he not just grew up in Louisville. He grew up basically at Churchill Downs. I mean, you could.
Oh, well, I've been going to Churchill since I was maybe 10 or so. Yeah. So, yeah. No, I mean, look, when I started, they did a show on NBC did a show when I was a little boy, I think. When I want to say about 10 or 11, and it was about the horse business, and they said, what do you want to do when you get older? And I said, I want to win the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
So this has been a dream of mine for over 50 years. So yeah, of course I get sentimental about it. One of the other things was I wanted to get into the Hall of Fame, and very grateful for the voters feeling, putting me in there. And so this would be, if I could win the Kentucky Derby, I would say that as a horse trainer, I've accomplished everything that I set out to do.
Wow. And all the accomplishments you've already had, like you say, been in the Canadian Hall of Fame for years. You dominated up there so much, as we talked about before, people thought you were Canadian for years, probably.
Right. Oh, yeah. I still, not so much anymore, but yeah, a lot of people thought I was Canadian. And I owe a lot to Canada and to Woodbine because, I've been there so long and done a lot of things. And you'll even see where a lot of my good horses have got their footprints there at Woodbine. Now, this horse is one that isn't, but, Warrawell and Wonder Godot, a lot of good horses get started. I start a lot of my horses up there. So anyways, I'm ready to get it. We want to get going and see what happens.
And hey, look, you could be going for your own Triple Crown. You got the Preakness last year,
mm-hmm.
and you got the Belmont last year, and now you come back into the Derby. You could kind
there
of
you go.
The Mark Casse Triple Crown, perhaps.
I'll take it.
Hey, what do you think what's it going to be like to do the walkover with no fans? Because I was talking earlier, that's one of my special moments. Is every year, no matter how many times I've done it, that walkover with the crowd building and seeing all the people there, even though they're there, when you first get that look at them again, it's something special.
Oh, yeah. I don't – who would have thought, Kenny, if we – a year ago even, to think that we could be walking over for the Kentucky Derby and there'd be no fans. I mean, it's just inconceivable. And only thing I can tell you, it's going to be quieter.
It will be. Well, we'll be able to keep up with each other better. I won't have to go through the crowd to try to find the interview.
No, exactly. It'll be a little less. I just hope that I'd like to go over one night without rain.
Oh, that'd be the thing.
I mean, how many times have you and I walked over, you almost lose your shoes? It's just, especially lately, it's been tough.
That's the most pressing thing for me is you don't want to be that guy that's on YouTube forever for fake.
Yeah, when you fall, you trip and fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So, Mark, listen, I always appreciate your time, and thank you so much. Safe travels up to Louisville, and best wishes with Enforceable in the Derby in just a few days.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Have a great day. See you soon.
All right. Thank you. The Hall of Fame trainer, Mark Casse, bringing Enforceable in to this year's Derby. We'll have more on the Horse Racing Show right after this. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. This guy's a dear friend. For over a decade, we've worked together now at NBC Sports. He is the vice president of editorial content. He is the one that looks over all the scripts that we're going to be saying as reporters out in the field. And that's why we call him the consolidator, because he brings everything together and hopefully makes us sound good, as he'll try to do now by being on this show with me. He is Ron Vaccaro. Ron, welcome in.
Thank you, Kenny. It's great to be back. A repeat guest. I'm honored.
Yes, and I got that introduction in. I'm timing it here. I got it in under 30 seconds.
Our producer, Rob Hyland, will be very proud, and you can't carry over the extra time to the Derby, though. You still got to be on time.
I know. So when Rob is listening back to this, we will want to make note of that. And, I was talking earlier about sports and just watching it, and, it's different, but I've kind of gotten into watching things now just because there's something still going on. What's it been like for you as a man that covers all sports for NBC, including a lot of car racing, to watch like the Indy 500 over the weekend without fans, as we're getting ready to watch another iconic sporting event in a few days, the Kentucky Derby, without fans?
It's multifaceted, Kenny. For the first part of it, and at the root, I don't think anybody would be in the business we're in if you didn't start off as a fan first. And yes, we pride ourselves on being objective, and you can be objective and still be, in the general sense, a fan. So the first thing is, as we're watching this unfold over the past several months, okay, how are they going to pull this off? Are they going to be able to do these events safely, and protocols? And by and large, I think you would say the sports that are running are doing a really good job of that. And they're clearly taking the protocol seriously from everything I can tell. And I think that's a good thing. So then it's like, okay, that in general, that hurdle cleared, then you start to focus on, okay, what's the dynamics of the event? And, you know, you mentioned an Indy 500, or you mentioned a Kentucky Derby. And I mean, it's one of the neat things is normally the month of May is bookended by those two classic events within a few hours of each other in terms of geography, right? It's right. The first Saturday in May, the Kentucky Derby, and then the Memorial Day Sunday, that last weekend in May, the Indy 500. And now the order's been flipped, but they're within 2 weeks of each other, and just the classic American event. And I think, you know, we tend to focus a lot on the fans and the spectacle of both events, and for good reason. As this has started to play out and we're seeing more and more of these events, you know, one of the places my mind has gone is take the competitors and the trainers. You know, if you're a trainer, let's leave Bob Baffert aside for a minute, but if you're a trainer who's still looking for your first Kentucky Derby win, you've probably envisioned the Derby and maybe even lived the Derby with fans there. But now there's not going to be fans there. And it's kind of now just for you and your family. And you're not going to be celebrating with 150,000 other people there in person. But I would imagine in some ways it's going to be even more introspective and more meaningful, because I think there will be some measure of solitude that leaves key principals alone with their thoughts. And I think, you know, Kenny, thankfully, you'll be there to try and capture some of those thoughts. And, you know, I think we normally see exuberance and jubilation, and I think we'll still see that. But rather than having the energy of 150,000 people rushing to go cash their tickets or cheer, I think we're going to see a little more, you know, personal thoughts, because there's not going to be this crowd wave to get swept up in. That's one way I'm looking at it.
So with Ron Vaccaro of NBC Sports, you're on. That's a great point. And, you know, another thing is this is the Derby that's always going to be remembered. Not that other Derbies aren't remembered, but let's face it, even if you're a casual fan out there, you're going to remember the Triple Crowns recently that we've seen. But you know, I mean, okay, who won the 2008 Derby? Okay, you got to be a fan to really keep up on that. Who won the 2004, 5 Derby, let's say, or something. But you're going to know this Derby for all the craziness that 2020 has brought us. You're going to remember the Derby without fans and who won that race.
Oh, without question. And, you know, you think about it this way. It took 22 minutes to figure out who won the Kentucky Derby last year.
Yeah.
Well, you go from May 2nd. That we're going from 22 minutes to 4 months to try and figure out who's going to win the Derby this year. And one of the interesting things, and Kenny, you know this better than me, the question of who's going to win the Derby, the timing of it changed dramatically. Who's going to run the Derby? You know, people are, I think, rightly very excited about 'Tis the Law. But some of the projected toughest competition almost certainly would not have been running on the first Saturday in May. They wouldn't have been ready.
No, that's perfect, because as we were talking with Mark Casse earlier, you start going back and looking at who was on the Derby scene, say, February, March, as it was building to what we thought was still going to be the first Saturday in May. There's less than a handful of horses that you can name that will be running now than would have been running the first Saturday in May. I mean, the attrition rate has been amazing, injuries and the whatnot that sidelined horses.
Yeah, and I'm generally speaking not one for asterisks. I prefer put things in the specific context they're in. I think when you start deciding what gets an asterisk and what doesn't, to me, my opinion, it makes it seem like everything without an asterisk was exactly the same. And the reality is I think things are different. But I understand the asterisk point for sure. And I think what I'm leading to is if Tis the Law is able to win a Triple Crown this year, if, then I would recognize that and celebrate that as in the year 2020, it's still hard to win all three of these races. Yeah. Some might say it's a little easier, but someone's got to win all three. And if it can be done, I would take nothing away from that accomplishment.
Well put, and I agree 100% with that. Now, when we come back, we're taking a quick break. Ron Vaccaro of NBC is our guest. We're going to talk to him not as the broadcasting pro that he is, but about the fan that he was recently in Daytona. Stay with us. More coming up on the Horse Racing Show. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for tuning in. Ron Vaccaro, NBC Sports, is with us right now. We've been talking a lot about the Derby, of course. We've talked about sports going on, like the Indy 500 without fans. But, Ron, recently you were in Daytona, the iconic speedway, and you were a fan. You didn't no press credentials for you there. No craft services. You just show up as the fan that you are and watch the race. And what was that whole event like?
First of all, the fact that they ran on the Daytona road course with the NASCAR Cup Series, all the series, but they only had fans in that Sunday for the Cup Series I went to. And it was a return to the roots. I mean, they originally raced on the beach and the A1A in Daytona. And if you go down there, on the beach, you can still see the old north turn, the old south turn, and they've got checkered flags at the beach gates. And it's a part of the history in that community. And it's a history that I love. And the opportunity to see the Cup Series racing on the road course because they couldn't race at Watkins Glen, which has become one of the highlights of the summers. And they just couldn't pull it off this year because of COVID and the quarantine requirements that would be in place. So they went to the Daytona road course, and I was really curious what it was going to be like as a fan. And I think the track did a fantastic job, Daytona International Speedway. You were able to go online. Tickets were selling well. I personally, not to give away my strategy here, but I bought tickets pretty late in the game because I wanted to sit in a section that didn't have many people in it. I mean, all the sections were spaced out, but I specifically looked for one that had still a lot of seats. And there were probably 4 or 5 other people in my section. I was on the last open section, and I did that purposely because I was, I'm really trying to be careful and mindful of all these things. And getting in, the staff at the track was very friendly. I think the fans were really well behaved, and what I mean by that is, one of the fun things about going to an event is the group environment, and you enjoy. People when we used to go to the racetrack growing up as a kid, you'd see the same people in your row every year, once or twice a year when the races came, and I wasn't sure how much of that kind of group congregating there would be to try and break the distancing, and there wasn't, and I was happy to see that. And the thing that struck me was, and I'm not trying to make this sound like a hardship by any stretch, because this was choice, but you're sitting there and it's work to observe all these protocols. You can go to a race and sit there and it's 90 degrees in humid Florida in August at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun shining. It's not the most comfortable condition to wear a mask.
Yeah.
But you wear it because that's what you do. And it gave me an appreciation of the fans who, did that to enter. And what it made me want to do is really celebrate fandom. And, that was there might have been 10,000 people there, and the track can seat well over 100,000. might have been 10,000. And think of all the people who would have loved to be there who couldn't.
Yeah.
And it makes us, as the television broadcaster, it makes me want to do an even better job. So Derby Day, well, I would hope a good amount of those 150,000 people who'd normally be at Churchill Downs will be watching. And some people have been there almost every year that they can remember, because these events are family traditions.
Right.
So that makes me, we better do a damn good job of bringing this event to life for them, so they, so we can mitigate how much they miss the event they normally can go to. And that's kind of the way I'm thinking about it.
Ron, you realize the pressure you just put on me now?
Well, that's why you're there, Kenny.
No, but that was well said, because believe me, I have yet to be, you're the only person that I know that's actually been to a sporting event this year, other than some of us that have gone to horse races, because we were allowed in as media, but not to actually sit in the stands as fans. And so it's great to get that, the way you share that experience. I mean, that's great, because I think of people, I would love to be able to go to a baseball game. I wouldn't mind sitting in the right field bleachers, just to be at a game, as I'm sure, millions of people would like to be just at the game, at the race in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, and you think there's so many. Everyone's different. For some people, it's a family tradition, and maybe you've got a father and mother taking their sons and daughters to an event.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got one of each of those, and you mix it up. Any family dynamic you want to pick, grandparents, aunts, uncles. I mean, everyone's different, but there's a place for all of it. And for some people, I know, and I'm thinking sports in general now, some people go to sporting events, and again, we're talking the bucket list events with the Kentucky Derby and Indy 500 and those type of things. And, some people like to go to keep on a legacy of a lost loved one.
Right.
And, I was talking with a family friend the other day, and she was 85 years old. She is 85 years old, and her husband is long passed, and they used to go to the races, the car races. They used to go. And she was saying, I got to go get my walk-in, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to watch the Indy 500 because it'll bring back good memories. And they're like, that's what it's all about.
Talking with Ron Vaccaro of NBC Sports. Always has great insight to things. What I'm going to miss this year is listening to your call as also the voice of Yale University football. And I will miss hearing that. And I'm sure you're going to miss that a lot this year.
I will. It's defined a lot of fall Saturday afternoons, but thankfully a lot of great sporting content that sink my teeth into working at NBC this fall. So I don't think I'll be bored.
No, I know you won't, as we're getting our notes together and getting ready, and now the days are counting down to another Kentucky Derby, and it's going to be 5 hours live on NBC on Saturday, and the day before we'll be live for 3 hours with the Oaks. So, that's exciting to still be a part of that and to be with you, even from a distance. We'll all still be in contact and putting on what we hope is a great show, but the fans will be watching maybe more now than ever.
But let's hope, and I think it's going to be a derby for the ages. If you think about the composition of the field, I think it adds a layer that is extra fascinating.
Ron, it's great to catch up with you, my friend. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Kenny. Likewise.
Ron Vaccaro of NBC Sports with us. We'll have more on the Horse Racing Show right after this. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Well, it's almost that time. I know that Thomas and Ben, like a lot of you, are getting excited. Finally, the Derby. And did we think back in May, boy, it's going to be a long, long way till we get to that first Saturday in September. And now here we're just days away.
Can you believe it? It seemed like it never come.
No. Thomas, how many stats have you looked up talking about possible derbies and almost derbies and last time of this derby and everything that we've done over the last probably 15 shows or so. Do you ever try to even take account of it?
It seems like it just fills up my head to the point of overflowing.
It is. And, I really enjoyed our guest today, as I always do. That's been the favorite thing about this, is catching up with people like Mark Casse, who has a shot in there with Enforceable. I mean, outside of a couple out there that obviously stand out, that would be Tiz the Law and Art Collector. Who else you got out there? I mean, he's right there in the mix. Dr. Post is there. Authentic is there. King Guillermo is really interesting. He hasn't raced in like almost 4 months. Maybe New York Traffic's moving up on the scene. Honor AP with John Sheriffs, who won this with Mike Smith as his jockey. But they were together with Giacomo in 2005. They're back together with Honor AP. Of course, Barkley Tag won it with Funny Side in 2003, who brings in Tiz the Law. Dale Romans won. We talk about great trainers that have not won the Derby yet. Dale Romans would be one of those. He has attachment rate. We talked to one earlier, Mark Casse, who has Enforceable. Steve Asmussen has Max Player. And so, the basic line on all this, guys, as you know, is what happens is you still have a Kentucky Derby that we would have maybe different horses, but the same storylines, wouldn't we? I mean, if you were going into this race at any time, be it May or be it September, it's the same storylines. You've got a couple of horses that seem to stand out. You've got about 4 or 5 that might be there that could be interesting. And then you probably could argue you got 5 or 6 that shouldn't even be there, but that's with every Derby. So I guess we're back to where we usually would be, wouldn't you say, guys?
Most definitely. I mean, I think that especially with something like the Derby, you're never really going to have a field that never belonged there. There's always going to be those horses that were, going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, because if you went by that logic of who should not be there, I guess you could say Giacomo shouldn't have been there. Mind That Bird shouldn't have been there. You can start going down the list. Country House last year, right, Thomas? 65-1. He shouldn't have been in the Derby if you wanted to go by what horses with long shots shouldn't be in it. And that's why you got him, right? That's why you got him showing up every year, is because there's always that chance.
Yeah, it adds a little bit of flavor to the race. I mean, everybody loves an underdog, a long shot, whatever you want to call it. But especially like last year, Country House at 65-1, that made a very small group of people very, very happy when they cashed those tickets.
Yeah. And, that wait, that 22-minute wait seemed like forever last year, waiting to see who would be officially announced the winner. Possibly this wait from May till September has seemed like eternity for horse racing fans out there. But it is going to happen. And even without fans, I think that there's going to be even more people tuning in, because I don't know how they're going to have Derby parties. I don't know if you guys are going to a Derby party, because there's still social distancing practices all over the country. So I don't know how many people can gather in one place. But there will be a lot of people, I think, tuning in, just as we've been tuning in for every live sporting event, just to see what is going on.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think my Derby party might be over Zoom, just to make a presence,
Thomas, you're going to Zoom in with? Are you guys going to get together and Zoom in and get a few more of your friends to Zoom in?
Perhaps. I'm at a new place actually. We don't have cable yet, so I might actually have to go somewhere in person. Although it might just be my mother's house.
Well, you got to go somewhere and watch it, right? Because it's the Derby and it is special and it's that time of the year. And, I'm excited to, again, be part of it and thankful to be a part of it. And I just think there's so many great stories, as we usually have. And then we got the usual suspects. Bob Baffert's going to be there with Authentic and 1,000 Words. Todd Pletcher's going to be there with Dr. Post. Then, there's so you're going to have those. As we mentioned, Asmussen's going to be there. It's going to be a fun, exciting Derby, maybe wide open, maybe Tiz the Law is that good. It'll be 77 days since Tiz the Law won the Belmont to the Kentucky Derby. No horse has ever done that, so that will be interesting. And maybe we'll be talking Triple Crown chances, but for now we're talking Derby chances. We'll talk more next week about that. Thank you, Thomas Kenny. Thank you, Ben Chaffins. Thanks to our guests, Mark Casse and Ron Vaccaro. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for taking time to tune in, and we'll be counting it down again, getting closer to the Derby right here next week on the Horse Racing Show.